Hello everyone, it's Liz Holloway from Liz Holloway Design, and welcome to my video channel. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to birthdays memory designer paper from Stampin' Up. And each of the pages you'll see here are all interactive, whether it's open and close and shutting with a mini magnets, or it's inserts. So let's get started. We're going to start off with compiling the spine of the mini album. Now let's work on the spine. When you have cut this out, the strip has perforated cuts on them, and what you want to do is fold and crease well with the bone folder. Then take your tear and tape and add tape to the first of each half inch score lines and repeat all the way down. You want the tear and tape close to the perforated edges, and this is because when you are folding the two half-inch together, the perforated edge will be the actual placement of the pocket pages. I highly recommend burnishing the tear and tape, and this will help release the protective sheet. And what I'm doing here is using my paper piercing tool to lift the backing protective sheet up so that you don't have to really fuss too much about removing the protective sheet. Once the protective sheets have been removed, start folding the half-inch together, and that will create the spine. So technically you'll have half-inch and then a spacing of a 1/4 inch, and then half-inch and a 1/4 of spacing of, and it repeats all the way down, and you should have five kind of tags a spine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the two ends. What you're going to want to do is add a score half-inch on each side of the tab fold. When finished burnishing the spine, what you're going to do now is cut 1 5/8 inch by 3 3/4 inch chipboard, and this is actually going to be reinforcing the spine, and it's not going to move. So add tear and tape to the back, and I would recommend doing 3 strips down right on each side. It is very important that you burnish your tape so that it doesn't lift off, and so just simply taking your bone folder and burnishing the tape before removing the backing tape. And then what you're going to do is take your paper piercing tools and removing the backing tape, and then once that's done, you're going to apply the chipboard to the back of the spine, and this will reinforce the spine when additional pages are added to your spine. Don't worry about it, we're going to cover it all up again. Now you can see me burnishing the spine with my bone folder, and this is what you need to do, because you want to make sure that the tab actually folds both ways, left and right, because when you add your pocket pieces, it's going to be harder to fold and burnish the spine later on. Next, we are going to work on our pocket pieces, and basically you want to have 2 coordinating cardstock, and then making sure that each they are mirrored together. And so here I am taping the back side of the camera, which is the pocket page, and you want to add tape all the way around, leaving the left hand side open, and this will create the pocket, and you'll see that later on. Remove all the protective sheet, and then what you're going to do is lay the top camera together, aligning all the edges, and just carefully align them, because it would be really sad to see that if your camera doesn't line up, it's gonna be very noticeable. So take your time, and if you're having trouble lining up the top camera, what I recommend is removing the top portion of the protective sheet and then aligning it at the bottom, and then removing the protective sheet. So how the pocket works is that on the left side there's an opening, and so basically once you get all your pockets, each of the pocket pages will fit right inside the folded panels. So with this step you're going to repeat 4 more times, making 5 pockets in total. If you are going to recreate this again, you're going to use the number 8 die from the nesting circles and basically cut 2 window sheets out of this number 8 die. I'm bringing in my big shot and the number 8 die, and then you're going to cut 2 window sheets for your shaker part of the cover. Take your shaker circle and apply glue to the inner edge of the circle, and then add 1 window sheet. Make sure that the window sheet is glued down before moving to the next step. Then what you're going to do is take your foam tape and lightly shape it so that it curves with the circle. I am applying the foam tape to the outer edge as well as the inner edge, and making sure when applying the foam tape that you don't leave a gap. Having no gaps will allow your shaker beads to stay in place and it will not fall out. Now, the reason why I did the taping of the inner edge is because the cut die window is too small for the actual circle, so it's always best just to add extra foam tape on so that it gives even balance of the shaker part. I am using some glass beads that I bought from Michaels, but you can use whatever shaker elements you wish and whatever quantity you want, but don't add too much that the shaker don't work. Remove the foam lining and add the second window sheet, making sure that the edges are sealed and no gaps between the foam tape and the window sheet. When you are ready, grab a prepared pocket page and add your DSP on the front and on the back of the pocket page. Make sure that when you are doing this that you are consistent on every single page, that the larger square of the camera is always on the left, or the smaller square on top of the camera is always either on your left or on your right. So again, I'm using Terran tape to the designer paper and just adding tape to the whole surrounding of the designer. And if you don't want to use tear and tape, use your tape dispenser. It actually goes a lot faster than in using the tear and tape. Remove the liner and then carefully align the designer paper to the front and to the back of the pocket pages. Now it's time to add the shaker portion. And so what you want to do is to make sure that when you are adding the shaker lens, remove the protective sheet only on the left hand side, and you want to only do half of it, so half on top, half on the bottom, and then your adhesive is on the left hand side. To finish off the front cover page, you're going to add the 2 red dots and the view lens to the front page. Creating page 2, you're going to take one pocket page and add designer paper of your choice to the front and back. And remember what I mentioned before or earlier in the filming, that you want to stay consistent, that wherever your opening is on the left side, keep it on the left side, because when it comes to putting the book together or the pages together, it is very critical. So here I'm using glue, and I just wanted to show you the choices of mediums that you can use to assemble your pages. The next step is working on the centerpiece, and you're going to need the centerpiece of the camera as well as a designer paper and 2 magnets. In adding your magnets, it's easier to take the glue dot and add the glue dot to the magnet. And then once you've got the glue dot on, place the magnet onto the red cardstock. And you can either center it or offset it, but I recommend centering it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my multi-purpose glue and add a ring of glue around the magnet to prevent it from sliding all over the place and losing it, just in case the glue dot doesn't sit properly. Okay, so then taking tear and tape and add tear and tape to all the sides, and then glue your designer paper on. Now it's time to add tear and tape to the back side of the center console of the camera, and you only want to add tear and tape only to the top tab portion. Next, you're going to need to locate 2 of the 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 and attach one of the panels to the back side of the camera panel. And then add the center panel to the base card. To get the second magnet to position in its place, what you're going to do is lift up the flap and let the magnet take its course, and it will snap in place. And this will give you the alignment of the magnet. So what you need to do is then take your glue dot and the paper piercer and attach the glue dot to the magnet side. And then when you got that done, fold down the center panel, and this will be the placement of your magnet. For the next interactive piece, this measures 9 inches by 4 inches, and we're going to score this at 3 inches and 6 inches. Fold and crease swell with your bone folder, making a 3 panel. Next is to add the tear and tape to the 3rd panel as well as a mini magnet. I am going to switch over to my tape runner gun, and it's a lot faster, especially when you're doing mini albums such like this. So to get the second placement of the magnet, place your magnet onto the 3rd panel and then add a mini glue dot to that magnet and then fold it over to the 2nd panel. Remember to add your glue around the magnet and then add your Whisper White cardstocks. Those are measured at 2 3/4 by 3 1/4 inch of Whisper White, and you're going to add them all to the 5 panels that you have there. We are now on to page 3, which has the film strip, and you're going to need the film strip plus the 1 complete pocket page, and then add designer papers to your choice to the front and back. So when you are cutting the coordinating cardstock, fold and crease well on the perforated lines, and at this point you can either add pictures now, or you can also mark the sizes and trace the window. Trace with a light pencil mark around the windows and then add your pictures later on. Otherwise, leave it open until later time and you can insert them. The 2 shorter tabs are behind the pocket part and adhere to the base pocket page. To finish off this page, I cut the presents and add dimensionals to the back and then pop it right to the smaller squares. Set page 3 aside, and it's time to work on page 4. And this page is the gatefold. So you're going to need 1 pocket page and add the designer of your choice only to the back side. You'll also need the gatefold with the tabs and 4 designers paper of the gatefold. So what you're going to do is add your designer papers to the gatefold of the front and back, and then add tear and tape to the tabs of the gatefold. So when you got your tab gatefold done, fold the tab in, add tear and tape, and then secure the edges to each of the sides. You take your time doing this because this can be very tricky and you want it precise. With the top designer paper, you're going to cut a sliver off of each side so that you have about 1/16 of a spacing between the two. The reason why is that when you are folding your gatefold, you see how it buckles up, and so basically what you're going to do is trim just 1/16 of an inch on each other side, and then before you place the designer paper onto your pocket page, make sure you test it out before securing it down. And when I say 1/16, you can actually run your paper piercer between the two designer papers. So now you're going to locate a 4" by 8" coordinate cardstock, and then you're going to score at 4 inches and then crease well. This particular fun fold is called a joy fold. It's just like a regular card, but I'll tell you why it's called the joy fold. It's basically when you're opening or folding this particular cardstock up, it sandwiches in between the gatefold page, and it's actually called the joy fold technique. So here I'm creasing the 4" by 8" cardstock, which is scored at 4", and I'm only attaching half of the joyful card to the left side of the gatefold. I cut a 3 3/4" square of Whisper White, and then I'm going to add it to the ribbon embossing texture before securing it onto the front of my joyful card. The inside, I also cut 2 3 3/4 square of designer paper, and I adhere it to the inside of the joyful. But before you do that, you need to add a magnet, and I'll show you in just a minute. For the decorative portion, I'm using the Sizzix adhesive sheet, and it's double-sided tape on adhesive on both sides, and this is basically used for securing your intricate dies. So what I'm doing is, rather than wasting it, I'm going to cut this down to 3.5 inches, and then peeling the top portion of the lining sheet, and then add cardstock right on top, and then your die, and then run it through your Big Shot. When you are removing the intricate die, use your paper piercer and poke out any excessive remnant pieces that you don't need. Now you want to be careful not to tear it, so just taking your time and poke out all the little pieces, and then when it's time to place it onto your joyful card, just remove the sticky back at the back and apply it firmly to the joyful card. As I have indicated earlier, you want to add tape to the left side of the joyful card, and then tape it down to the left side of the base camera page. And then add your decorative pieces, and those squares are from the film strip, so you can add 2 small squares on each side. Open the joyful card and add a magnet to the right hand side with a glue dot, and then adding multi-purpose glue around the magnet, and then cover it up with designer paper. Snap the second piece of magnet to the other side and ensuring that it is in its position before adding your glue dot, and then add your designer paper to cover that part up as well, and making sure that you add the glue surrounding the magnet. You can decorate this page now by adding a flag and just die cut it out of the designer paper. We're going to work on page 5, and what you're going to need is one pocket page, and just add designer paper to the back of the pocket page. With the pocket, the one that has a funny looking little shape at the bottom, so what you're going to do is you're going to fold all the tabs in and then crease it well with your bone folder. A funny little corner sides, and then there's like 3 tabs on it. So what I want you to do now is score all the tabs and add tear-in tape to the inside of the tab. How this is positioned is that it's going to sit over the designer paper, and then it's going to create like a wrap. When you have the pocket in place, then what you're going to do is secure the designer paper onto the pocket page. So the next pocket is page 6, and what you're going to need is the one full completed pocket page, and add designer papers of your choice to the front and back. Make sure that your opening is on the left hand side before adding these 2 tab pieces. You're going to fold these tab pieces, and then I recommend placing them one down and one the opposite position. Add a magnet to the notch side with glue dot, and the easiest way to do this also is by using your paper piercing tool and position the magnet in place, and this way you have the exact accuracy. And then repeat on the other side of the flap. Add multi-purpose glue around the magnet before adding your designer paper on the tab pieces. When you are done, then you're going to position the second magnet, and this is going to be positioned when at the back of your tab flap. And then add your glue dot to the front of the magnet, and then add multi-purpose glues around the magnet, and then secure it onto the base pocket. Then decorate the front of your tab piece with whatever designer paper you wish to cover it up with. And that is it for page 6. Very easy, quick and easy. So at this point, what you're going to do is finish off the second tab piece. Page 7 is fairly straightforward. Grab a single camera cardstock front and line it with designer paper, and then what you're going to do is then you're going to fold the 8x4 inch cardstock in half and then glue the back side to the last page. If you want this page to be interactive, then only glue 3 sides and add coordinating mats to it. Now it's time to grab the clasp closure and the slip piece, and what you're going to do is fold the two ends of the closure and slip this piece into the slot. Unfold the sides, and then it's time to add the film strip. You just want to add tape between the openings and then secure it to your closure, aligning your ends together. The overhang on the circle part is okay because it's going to be covered with the mat. And then add tear and tape to the slotted short ends, ensuring that you do not tape the clasp piece. When adding your closure part, align the slotted piece close to the edge and ignore what I just did here, as my closure did not fit properly. Test the closure to make sure it slides back and forth and that it's not taped down by the slotted piece. When you have tested the closure, it's now time to add the designer paper to this side. Glue or tape the edges and avoid the slider part. Then glue this page to your prepared page 7 and ensuring that you do not glue the opening. When all the pages are done, it's now time to assemble the pages together to the spine. Organize your page and let's work on the spine. You should have a chipboard on the center of your bindings, and then add tape around the bindings and throughout the binding. I gave my binding a lot of adhesive because I want to hold it and to ensure that the binding does not fall off over the course of time. This is an very interactive book, and you don't want your pages to fall off, so give it extra care. I burnished the tape and then cover the spine with coordinating cardstock, or you can use designer paper of your choice, and then miter the corners. Turn the spine over and add tape to both sides of the half-inch gusset. And then burnish your tape well with your bone folder. Add tape to the front and back of the binding close to the score lines. This is where your front and back pages are going to sit. Now what you're going to do is slot page 1 into the first gusset, and then before removing the protective tapes, make sure that it is lined up to the slotted lines, and then remove the tape. Repeat the remaining pages, and then to ensure that pages 2 and 7 are aligned at the bottom, before you remove the backing tape, tap the pages down and then remove the backing tape one at a time, and then once you got those in place, then you can actually burnish the tape down to make sure that it's all connected together. And this is it. You are done. It's time to add your pictures. Now I love to see what you have made, and I love to showcase your work on my blog. So don't be shy, and I'd love to see your work. I can be reached at lizhollowaydesign.blogspot.ca or additional Facebook pages, Liz Holloway Design or the Canadian Paper Craft, Cards and Scrapbook. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. If you need to get a hold of me by email, it's liz.holloway@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and have a great week.